Hello Raptors fans and welcome back to Raptors Report. Today we're going to be discussing the Toronto Raptors game against the Milwaukee Bucks, but before we do that, we are going to be discussing the NBA draft. And another prospect has been requested heavily by the fans of the Toronto Raptors. They're hoping that they'll be able to hear his name called by Adam Silver in June, because the Toronto Raptors are probably going to be picking pretty highly in this coming draft, because the Toronto Raptors have been getting bushwhacked, they've been getting stomped, wrecked, whatever pejorative term you want to use for how they're losing these games. It's not looking pretty, the losses are piling up. And to keep sane as a basketball fan, you want those goodies. You want to talk about what the Toronto Raptors are building towards with this losing record. You want to look at the guys who are available at the top of this coming draft. And by far, the most asked for player to do a breakdown on. Many people in this fan base are obsessed with Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey is another American prospect, another tall forward who has a lot of tantalizing skills and a lot of really interesting strengths as a player. But unlike Cooper Flagg, he is less of a well-rounded player and more focused in a certain direction. And he lacks some of the skills and attributes that Cooper Flagg does, but he does have some pretty intriguing strengths as a player. He also has some question marks and weaknesses and things that he needs to improve upon at the next level, but I understand why people are excited about Ace Bailey as a prospect. He is obviously really exciting. He has a scorer's mentality, but there's also something that I want to address before we get into him as a prospect, and that is fit. And I think that a lot of people within the Toronto Raptors fan base are excited about Ace Bailey because of his potential fit with the Toronto Raptors' current roster. And I kind of want to address this because I have some thoughts on roster building, roster construction, where the Toronto Raptors are right now, and what they should be looking for in a prospect. So first of all, when I look at the Toronto Raptors roster, right now, they are at the very early stages of the rebuilding process. They are in year one, maybe year 1.5 of the rebuild. There are some things you should keep in mind. While you and I and many people probably in the front office are excited about the prospects and the players who currently play for the Toronto Raptors, I must caution you, many of these players who we see the potential in, many of the players who you envision being on the Toronto Raptors long-term, a lot of them are not going to be here long-term. Generally, that is how NBA teams work. Even the best drafting teams, even the teams who develop players very well and are successful bringing players along, don't always keep players on their team. A lot of players don't pan out. A lot of players, maybe you had them pegged as an number one guy, they have to slide down to a complementary player or a bench player. Some of them will wash out, some of them will bust. There are many, many outcomes for players, even if you did the due diligence, you watched them, scouted them, and, wished for future success with them. A lot of the time, it doesn't work out. And that's not to say that anyone in particular on the Raptors is a bad prospect, but that said, just the law of averages. Some of these players will not be around when the Toronto Raptors are ready to compete. So when it comes to fit, if you pick a player who is not as good as some of the other players in the draft because they fit better with these other players who, again, may either be in a diminished role on the team, may not be as important to the team's success, maybe a role player, or maybe not even on the team, then the fit isn't as important, especially in year one of the rebuild when we are not exactly certain what the outcomes for these players are. At this point in the Toronto Raptors building cycle, one of the biggest things that you should be looking at with any player that you bring in is skill. Skill and potential. Fit is a third on that list. I'm not going to say it's not important because I think it'll dictate how many minutes that player can receive. And through minutes, you can improve. If you get a chance, you can reach your ceiling a little bit more. Opportunity is very much a thing in the NBA. But when it comes to drafting, especially in this draft, in the 2025 draft, the Toronto Raptors should be prioritizing overall skill rather than fit. So I think that applies a little bit to Ace Bailey here, because if you look at what the Toronto Raptors need from a prospect, they need more size, They really only have one, rotation caliber large forward, who is Scotty Barnes. Then you have a lot of guards. Many of the guards who the Raptors have on large contracts, many of the players that they have drafted and are bringing along and picked in the first round are guards. So I understand why people would be reticent to bring in a player like Dylan Harper or Igor Demin or VJ Edgecombe or Kasparas Yakichonis. There are a bunch of players who are guards or ball-handling wings that would probably interfere with some of the players that they already have on the team. I will tell you right now that a lot of the players that are at the top of this draft are better prospects, in my opinion, than the players currently on the team at the guard spot. And I know that might be tough to hear, and it doesn't mean that they'll necessarily be better than them if things go wrong for those prospects or things go very right for the prospects who are currently on the team. But I would just say, don't let the players who are currently at the guard spot right now dictate who you pick in this draft, because when push comes to shove, maybe the players that you're going to be picking this year are going to be better prospects. And also, you can figure out a way to get all of these guys minutes. You can make trades if you need to package good players together to get a player at a different position. This is very early goings. Don't get too hung up on position. Now let's just get to it. Let's talk about who Ace Bailey is. Ace Bailey grew up in Tennessee. He went to high school in Georgia, and he became a 5-star recruit. He was a McDonald's All-American, very good pedigree. He has been a star pretty much throughout his high school career and into college. And he is a very intriguing prospect because of his combination of excellent physical tools and his ability to shoot the basketball and create shots for himself. Those are the biggest selling points for Ace Bailey. He is a tremendous athlete who is very fluid, can move around the court easily, has very long arms, good foot speed, and the very intriguing part of his game and the most translatable part of his game has been his ability to shoot the basketball as well as create his own jumper, especially in the mid-range. He is one of the best mid-range shooters in college basketball over the past couple of years. He is able to drive from the perimeter, take a couple of dribbles, and pull up and nail jumpers with his very good touch. I think that one of the best things about him as a prospect is his touch. The form on his jumper changes from shot to shot. He is very creative with his release, and when he's bothered and players try and get him out of his comfort spot, he will still shoot shots and adjust his form and then use his very good touch to make the ball go into the hole. And he's very good at that from the mid-range. Zone defenses are popular in college basketball because there are a lot of weaker defenders in college basketball who don't have very good foot speed, and they want to be able to protect the basket, bring multiple defenders when a player drives. It's a useful style of basketball, especially when there's a lot of player turnover. And one of the very good things about a zone for a player like Ace Bailey is that there are holes in the zone. And one of them is right around above the free throw line between the two players at the top of a 2-3 zone. And Ace Bailey has made a lot of shots from that area. He's very good at driving into that zone and then pulling up where he's relatively open and just draining jumper after jumper. So that is a very, very good thing for Ace Bailey's development curve. Jump shooting in the NBA is at a premium, especially at spots that aren't the guard spot. If you can find a very good jump shooter at the forward spot and at the big spot, you have an intriguing prospect on your hands, because stretching the floor out, being able to run certain sets is predicated upon the ability to pull players out of the paint and create open shots for perimeter shooters. And so he has an in-demand skill set. Another very good thing about him is his ability to explode and protect the basket. I think that that will be a strength of his in the NBA. He has pretty good instincts on help defense. He's averaging just over a block and a steal in 33 minutes a game. So that is pretty good, portends well for the next level, and especially if he's a stretch big, because I think he's another one of those players where it is a little intriguing where he's going to end up as a player. Right now I see him more as a stretch 4 than as a true big. but things can change. Ace Bailey is averaging 19 points per game, 7.5 rebounds a game, under an assist a game, 1 steal, 1 block, and 2 turnovers, from 46% from the field, 34% from 3, and unfortunately 55% from the free throw line. So I would like to get into some of the limitations that Ace Bailey has as a player and how I think that he can be a contributor at the next level. So Ace Bailey is a play finisher. He is not a player who plays with the ball in his hands a whole lot, and it kind of makes sense. He is on a team with one of the best ball handlers and distributors in all of college basketball, and that's of course Dylan Harper, his teammate, who is an excellent ball handler, distributor, passer, lead guard, and so he is not called upon to handle the ball too much in the half court especially. I think that one of his strengths with the ball in his hands has been attacking the basket in transition. I think that that can be a go-to play for him at the next level. He's a good athlete with good foot speed, and he has a decent enough handle in order to attack in transition. With that said, I think that one of Ace Bailey's biggest weaknesses as a player has been his ability to dribble the ball with his left hand. Right now, he is very right-hand dominant, and he has a level of comfort of dribbling into traffic with his right hand that he does not have with his left hand. When we saw Cooper Flagg, and I discussed him, he is more of an ambidextrous driver. Teams know that he is right-hand dominant, so they will sit on his right hand, and as a result, Cooper Flagg pretty much is incentivized to drive left, and he has the confidence and the ability to drive with his left hand. With Ace, he is much less confident to do that. What teams will do is that they will sit on his right hand, and this is something that I've noticed, is that they will, if he's on the right side of the court, they will sit on his right hand and try and force him to go left into the help defense. A lot of the time, he will go right anyway. This is a bit of a red flag. He will attempt to do a tightrope walk between his defender and the baseline and then score that way. This is not going to work at the next level. Defenders in college basketball are not very good in comparison with NBA athletes. If there is an NBA defender who is playing your right hand, forcing you to go left between you and the baseline, and you try and go baseline, you are going to turn the ball over. It's just not going to work. At the next level, he needs to develop a left hand that he is more comfortable going to. And this isn't to say that he is not going to be able to develop that. He is a young player. Like all of these players, Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, Agor Demon, VJ Edgecombe, Kasparas Yakachonis, all of the guys slated to go in the top of this draft are all freshmen. So you have to know that many of these players are not finished products. They will get better at the things they're not as good at. But generally, the way that prospects evolve is that most of them will get much better at the thing they're already good at, and they won't necessarily get as good at the things they're bad at. You have to notice about him as a prospect that he is not an ambidextrous driver. His left hand is a lot weaker than his right hand, and he has a bit of a loose handle going into traffic. He's a bit of an upright driver. So that's a red flag number one. Another thing is his vision and passing ability when he has the ball in his hands. Ace Bailey is a player who I mentioned will probably be a play finisher at the next level. And what I mean by that is a player who will catch the ball, drive to the rim and finish, a guy who will catch and shoot, a guy who will catch the ball and will do a 1 or 2 dribble pull-up jump shot from inside the arc. Those are kind of the things that I think that he will be able to do at the next level. And those are valuable things for an offense. You need play finishers, you need a guy who can shoot the ball both inside the arc and outside the arc. However, if you put the ball into his hands, right now he is averaging more turnovers than assists. 0.7 assists to 2.2 turnovers is not a good mark. That is a red flag. He is looking for his own shot, and as I said, that makes sense because there is already a lead guard on the team. But he is also not really finding open teammates. He does not see cutters very well. He's generally just not a player who is reading the floor very well. Another warning sign that you should be paying attention to when you're evaluating Ace Bailey is the free throw percentage. If you go and look at all of the best shooters in the NBA, going through their stats, the best three-point shooters generally are also good free throw shooters, 75% and above. Most of the time, good shooters will have an above 80% free throw percentage. And that's generally because of repeatability. You're looking for players who are going to be taking the same shot every time. That's very important when you are a free throw shooter. The ability to replicate a shot over and over and over again, put the ball into the net consistently. And for a player like Ace Bailey, who I think is scoring a lot through touch, he is having a tough time making free throws. And that is a warning sign that shouldn't be ignored. 55% is something that you would see from a center, and that is something that you are seeing from Ace Bailey. So if you're trying to project him at the next level as a top three-point shooter, that might be something to watch out for. So let's talk about the overall package here, because there are some very intriguing things and there are some question marks. The intriguing things are his size for position, his physical tools, leaping ability, long arms, his ability to get out in transition, his foot speed, his jump shot, his ability to create his own shot, and confidence in his jumper. He plays with an attitude, he likes to score, he has that big dog mentality. There are a lot of things to like about him as a prospect. However, he's not my favorite prospect in this draft, and there are a couple of reasons why, which I've explained. And another thing, just mention it one more time, fit is not as important as skill. Don't get caught in the fit trap, especially at this stage in the Toronto Raptors rebuild. In any case, that's a quick breakdown on what I've seen from Ace Bailey. We will move along to the Toronto Raptors game against the Milwaukee Bucks. And this one was just a complete disaster apart from a couple of players. We'll start off with a player that I think had the best game, Scottie Barnes. He scored 21 points on 18 shots. He was unfortunately 0 of 4 from 3. I'm okay with the shots that Scottie Barnes took. I think that they were within the flow of the game. And I'm in terms of process, because I complimented him when he went 2 of 4 the other night. I said that these were all shots that I'm fine with, even if he missed all of them. He missed all of them tonight, and I was okay with all of them tonight. I thought I think taking 4 shots out of 18 from three-point range is fine, and they came within the flow of the offense. 5 assists, only 2 rebounds, 2 steals, a block, and unfortunately 5 turnovers. So statistically, not a fantastic evening from Scottie Barnes. I think the points were good. I think he was efficient from the field, even though he missed his threes. I think he should have shot more free throws, not necessarily his fault. He was guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo for the majority of the evening, and he did a magnificent job guarding Giannis. Part of this is because Giannis hurt his finger. He was trying to get a chase down block, and his pinky finger got tangled in the rim and made him bleed off of his hand. So I think that that was part of it. But even before that happened, Scottie was doing a great job standing up Giannis Antetokounmpo at the three-point line. So Giannis loves to play bully ball. He'll put his shoulder into you and use his off arm and first step to kind of blast you out of the way, get you on his hip, and then go all the way to the basket. Scottie Barnes used his lateral foot speed, his size, and physicality to stand up Giannis multiple times at the three-point arc. He stole the ball from Giannis. Giannis was a little loose with his dribble. Scottie Barnes poked the ball out, got out in transition, and did a really sick windmill dunk. And then Giannis was trying to do the bully ball thing. He was underneath the backboard. Scottie had him pinned underneath there. Giannis tried to go up through Scottie Barnes, and Scottie Barnes pinned his shot on the back of the backboard and got a clean block. It was great. Giannis, if you look at his free throws, how many free throws did he shoot? Only 2 as well. He usually shoots like, I don't know, over 10 a game. He only shot 2 free throws, and part of that was because he wasn't able to get downhill. So I thought he did a really good job on defense. There were some help defense situations where he could have been a little bit better. I think the team is just a complete mess on the defensive end. Things have really deteriorated on that end, and they need to make some changes. Next up, we'll talk probably the second best player in the game, who had a much better statistical night than Scottie Barnes, but we'll talk about maybe why he wasn't the first player on the list here. RJ Barrett, great game though. 25 points on 18 shots. He was 11 of 18 from the field. He was 2 of 5 from 3. Only 1 of 4 from the free throw line. Are we seeing a backslide there? Who knows? Probably not. I think it's just a fluke, happens. 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, only 1 turnover. I thought he had a really good game on offense. It was his first game back from being very ill. He lost a lot of weight and he missed a bunch of games. Not sure what the illness was, but glad he's back in the lineup and he looked healthy. On defense, there were a lot of possessions where Milwaukee Bucks were picking apart the Toronto Raptors defense, and RJ Barrett was out of position many, many times. There was one egregious play where he was standing at the elbow with his arms out, just kind of guarding nobody, ball watching. Bucks get it out, swing, swing, open corner 3, cash money. That was just what was happening all game long. Raptors help a little too much, get out of position, swing, swing, open shot. His man defense wasn't very good either. It was a pretty bad game defensively, but here's the thing. If a player gets 25 points on good efficiency, was 2 of 5 from 3, had 9 rebounds, 5 assists, only 1 turnover, they did their job. That's good enough to win. And his defense was pretty bad, but the whole team was bad in this department. Yeah, we'll just say RJ Barrett had a good game. Very, very good on offense and poor on defense, but definitely good enough to win the game. Next up, we'll go to Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl had a pretty not very effective defensive game. His push shot is still looking extremely reliable. He was able to get around Brook Lopez, who's a great rim defender, and score around him. 7 rebounds, assist, a steal, a block, a turnover. I don't think his defense was good last night. One of the problems is that Brook Lopez is a stretch big. He got it going from outside, and Jakob Poeltl understandably was not trying to cover him too much on the perimeter, but he was kind of getting roasted there. And then his rim defense, like, he had a couple of good plays, but it was not like a fantastic performance where he's just completely shutting down the paint. There were still a lot of drives, and he was out of position a couple of times too. There was a possession where he kind of zoned out and they back cut, and he wasn't in the right position to cut off the drive to the basket. It was just a bad night for everybody, him included. Next up, we'll go to Immanuel Quickley. Immanuel Quickley had a great return to action and has been kind of MIA the past 2 games. He's still working his way back into form. 11 points on 10 shots. He was 3 of 10 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. He had shot 4 free throws, 1 rebound, 3 assists, 2 steals, 0 blocks, 2 turnovers. Not an effective game from him, and he is not a great defender. He's small. His screen navigation is pretty good, although not elite. He's quick east-west, but players can shoot over him. Damian Lillard had like a really good game. And between RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, and Immanuel Quickley, one of them's going to have to pick up Dame. And none of those guys are really cut out to do that. I think that, Quick had a bad game. I think he's still getting healthy. I think he's still rusty. He's missed most of the season. This is his 3rd game back. I'll cut him a break, but obviously not a great showing from him. And last on the list, and we got to talk about this guy because I think it's time to make a change. Grady Dick. Grady Dick had 11 points on 12 shots. He was 3 of 9 from 3. Most of those threes came in garbage time when the game was already way over. So I don't really even count those. They had the 3rd stringers on and he was taking open shots. In the starting lineup, he can't get into a rhythm. He's playing with a bunch of guys who like to play with the ball and take shots themselves. RJ, Quickley, and Scotty, those guys are taking the majority of the shots rightfully. Rightfully, they are taking the majority of the shots. Right now, they are better than Grady Dick. Grady, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, a block and a turnover. He was very poor defensively. The Bucks were continually putting him into pick and roll coverage. Even guys like Gary Trent Jr., who are not good pick and roll operators, when they're going around a guy like Giannis or a guy like Brook Lopez, guys who set punishing screens, Grady is just out of the play. He gets erased from the play. He is not even in a trailing position where he's attached. There's daylight, a player gap between him and the player he's supposed to be guarding with one screen. And what that does is that the Raptors generally have to send multiple to the ball. And what does that mean? Open shots. Open shots over and over and over again. In my opinion, and I think it will be better for him as well, Grady Dick should go to the bench. There will be more shots for Grady Dick off of the bench because he won't have to share the floor with 3 players who are above him in the pecking order. Off of the bench, the perimeter players are not as adept at driving with the ball, and you can hide him on a player who is less of an offensive threat. And again, there's not going to be as punishing screeners off of this in the second unit. A lot of teams have undersized bigs who aren't as good screeners in the second unit. You're not going to have like a Brook Lopez setting these crushing screens where he has to run around that guy. I think it'll just be better for everybody involved. You can take Ochai Agbaji, who had to go to the bench, who is more of a complementary player. A 3-and-D guy, that sounds like a player who should be playing with the more high-usage players of Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and Scotty Barnes. This is something that I foresaw. It's been a long time coming. Now we're starting to see it. You have 3 guys in the starting lineup who are negative defenders, RJ Barrett, Immanuel Quickley, Grady Dick. It's going to be bad. It's not going to work on the defensive end, even if you have 2 good defenders in Jakob Poeltl and Scotty Barnes. It's not going to make up for the fact that you have 3 guys that are a liability. So send Grady Dick to the bench, give him more shots, give him a break on the defensive end, put Ochai Agbaji into the starting lineup. That's my opinion. Off of the bench, we'll start with Jacoby Walter. I thought Jacoby Walters, he was the leading scorer off the bench. He only had 8 points off the bench, but it was pretty good. He hit 2 threes. He was 3 of 5 from the field. He was doing a good job setting up his shots, making the shots. 2 rebounds, an assist, unfortunately 3 turnovers. And he is not yet a guy that I feel super confident with the ball in his hands, just handling the ball. I think that right now he's more of a play finisher, and I think that's good for him. I want to see more reps there. I can't wait until the veterans are traded off of the team. Pretty good Jacoby Walter game. Want to see more of this guy. He only played 11 minutes. Let's talk about the coach's decisions to scratch guys. There are 2 guys who were healthy scratches, Davion Mitchell, DNP CD, Chris Boucher, DNP CD. Don't really understand those ones. I think Chris Boucher brings more to the table at this point than Kelly Olynyk does. They could have used some scoring off of the bench, and while he's really volatile from that perspective, at least he can kind of get some shots up, and if he's on, he can carry your bench unit scoring. And then Davion Mitchell. Where was this guy? The Raptors were getting absolutely stomped on defense, and probably your best perimeter defender was not playing. And I get it. There are guys ahead of him in the pecking order. Immanuel Quickley played 30 minutes. Jamal Shed played 18 minutes. I just can't you find a way to have him play some minutes, maybe over Grady Dick, who was just disastrous last night. If you're not going to play him, you got to make space, and the Raptors really should be pursuing a trade, hopefully very soon. In all, this was a horrible game to watch. It wasn't close. The Raptors kept giving up 3-point shots. This is a cascading problem that has really hurt the team over the past few weeks. Now, other teams are baiting the Toronto Raptors into overhelping and then generating open shots. Over and over and over again, the Bucks shot 50% from 3, and it was not a surprise. Giannis had a triple-double, even though he didn't score particularly well. He had 13 assists because the Raptors helped a little too much and gave up open shots. And then on offense, they're not generating enough 3-point looks, and when they are generating 3-point looks, these are contested looks. They're getting outmathed. They're taking less threes than their opponents almost every single game. And then they only shot 25% from 3. They are generating turnovers, but I think that the defensive system where you are trying to generate extra possessions by creating turnovers and then leaving a bunch of players forward to grab offensive rebounds, it just does not seem to be working. Just a pretty miserable game from beginning to end, outside of 2 good performances from Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. And it doesn't get any easier because next up, the Toronto Raptors play the New York Knicks in New York at 7:30 tomorrow. The Knicks just came off a pretty bad loss to the Orlando Magic, who are really shorthanded. I mean, the Raptors also got beat down by the Magic as well, but the Knicks are stinging from that loss. Fans are pissed. The team is probably pissed. They got a point to prove. They are going to take it out on the Raptors tomorrow. And it's in their building. so I really don't see the Toronto Raptors winning that one. I think that the Knicks are going to try and look to get right against a cellar dweller, and they're probably going to try and style on the Raptors. We all saw what Cat was doing, popping the jersey and screaming at the camera performatively. So I just really don't think that they're going to get that one. And then the game after, they play the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it doesn't get any easier. Pretty bad game, but pretty good for the Toronto Raptors tank. Hooray! They look like they're going to be one of the top picking teams in this year's draft. So what do you think about my evaluation of Ace Bailey? Do you think my criticisms of him are fair? Do you think that maybe he's flawed in certain areas? He's going to improve quite a bit? Let me know your thoughts on Ace Bailey as a prospect in the comments. And also, you can vent about the Raptors. This is a safe space. You can tell everybody how you really feel, and I'll try and answer all of your questions and comments, which you can leave here or on Twitter and Blue Sky, where you can reach me at Raps Report. I love talking to Raptors fans. Please leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. Helps the channel grow. And as always, thanks for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.